going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about art, we're going to talk about architecture, we're going to talk about history, we're going to talk about people who are shaping the city in different ways. There's more to see there than just Hollywood Boulevard or the Hollywood sign or the beach. If you're not afraid to go and just discover areas of your city and have those experiences, you'll find that you'll appreciate your city more. The food and the culture and the people, and if you go a little bit, get a little bit uncomfortable and go into places that you normally wouldn't think to go to, that's when you actually are rewarded with some of the best experiences.
So we've been touring people through Los Angeles since 1999, and we started doing it in a unique way for Los Angeles, and we've done it by foot and also by storytelling. That way we're able to give more history of each location that we visit, but we decided that we need to expand on that and we need to do it in a different venue.
And with the Olympics coming in 2028 and the World Cup coming in 2026, we decided we want to take what we were doing on a larger stage. So we created City of Angels, and City of Angels is really kind of a storytelling platform, bringing together all the different people who are either shaping the city or have shaped the city in its past.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm excited about with these videos is when we're interviewing them, we're actually getting into their heads, seeing what they know about LA history and their vision for the future of LA. For me, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to politicians, artists, business owners, restaurateurs, people who are involved in shaping LA culture, and all of those people are going to have different stories to tell. And collectively, this will be kind of an anthology of stories that will help people really understand this vast and complex city. You know, LA is 2,400 square miles. It's a very, very big city. And most people who come here, they really don't, it's really hard for them to really understand it. So I think this platform will allow us to reach this much larger audience so that when they come to LA for the Olympics or the World Cup or any other reason they come here, they're going to have a much greater appreciation for the city.
Yeah, and we'll continue to tell the history of Los Angeles, or present the history of Los Angeles. It's not just its future, but also its past, which helps us move towards the future. So we will continue to do that as well.
So I see City of Angels as a historical record. I think it's going to be timeless because you can watch this show now, or you can watch this show 20 years from now, and the content that you're going to see here is going to be relevant now or 20 years from now. And it will help visitors who are coming here to understand the city, but also as a historical record, it will help kind of anyone really understand what Los Angeles is about, this vast and complex city that we have here.
My name is Tony Hoover. I'm an Angelino, and I'm originally from South Bend, Mishawaka, Indiana. I have a deformity in my hand that required surgery, and so my family was able to get me admitted to the Shriners Hospital in Chicago from the time I was very young to the time I was 18. I had to have the surgery inspected, and so we had to go into the city. So South Bend is actually very close to Chicago. It's only about an hour and a half east of the city. We would have to take regular trips into the city in order for the doctors to, inspect the work on the hand. And that had a huge influence on me over the years. I, would go from a small town to a big city with skyscrapers and busy streets and people. And, as a little kid, that really had a big impression on me. As I got older, when I got into my teenage years, I started to become more interested in architecture. Chicago is one of the great architecture cities of the world. So it makes sense that, that would be something that would visually at least appeal to me. It also kind of distracted me from things that were going on in my life here growing up in the small town.
Hi, my name is Michael Hernandez, and this is my story. I'm currently in Montebello, California. This is where I grew up. I pretty much became an adult when I left my home at 18 years old. It was a transition that happened quickly. I was actually asked to leave my parents' home because I was gay, and that's when things changed. I had to become an adult mentally so I can survive It was a little challenging, but it was something that I was able to accomplish with the help of people, strangers that I never knew before, that were there to pick me up and help me move forward. And because of that, I started my adult career in working in nonprofit. Kind of disconnected a little bit from my family, but then, of course, the family bond is what brings you back. And been part of my family ever since that. I've grown to accept them for accepting me.
Being gay as well, you know, living in a small town like this in the 70s and 80s, not very tolerant in that time period. I think things have changed over the years. I ended up coming to California and I ran an art gallery, or at least assisted directed an art gallery that represented architects. So it was a perfect kind of transition from my schooling, coming out to California, and kind of marrying my love of art and architecture together. GFA, which is the name of the gallery, Gallery of Functional Art, represented some of the greatest architects of that time in the 90s. Frank Gehry, Eric Owen Moss, Tom Main. And of course, Frank Gehry today is now very, very famous. But at the time, in the early 90s, I got to get to know some of these guys. They would come into the gallery. We represented them for their functional artwork. And that really kind of helped catapult my interest in what was going on in Los Angeles in terms of architecture, and also kind of getting my interest in LA history as well. So during that time period, I started to learn what made up LA, you know, as a city, all the different neighborhoods, the cultures, the architecture, the art, and ultimately start my own business introducing visitors to Los Angeles to not only movie star homes and things like that, which they normally would come to see, but the history of the city, the neighborhoods and the culture that they normally would just bypass.
My mother tried her best with me and my sister. She was a single mom. Most of my brothers and sisters had already moved out, starting their own lives. We're the youngest ones of all of them. She tried to set up traditions. After church every Sunday, we went to Burger King and we got a burger, fries, and a Coke every single Sunday when she was struggling. My father passed away when I was 5 years old, and that happened with my father and mother having two businesses. They had a restaurant and they also had a bakery. My mother took care of the bakery, and my father and my sister, my older sister, Mary Helen, they took care of the restaurant. But when my father passed away, it was not something that my mother could handle anymore. She had to give up both businesses so she can tend to her family. So she did her best, and I think she did pretty well. It wasn't always good times here. It wasn't. You know, it was always something happening.
I'm Sonia K. Hoover. I'm Tony's mom. You were a good kid. No, he really, truly was a very good kid. Didn't have much trouble with anything. We did have the going to the hospital for your hand.
Yeah.
He had surgery when he was 3, the first one, and when he was 5, the second one. And then every year after that for checkups to make sure everything was going well, which it did. You were born with these 2 fingers and a thumb. Your little finger was only about 1 inch high, and they said it would never grow. So it was in the way. So when you went in when you were 3, they removed the little finger. And then when you were 5, because the thumb went straight out like a finger. So when you were 5, they actually broke the finger, because then you didn't have, at that point, you had no fingertip. So it was really useless. So they broke your thumb, rotated it, and pinned it, and then put a cast on it, which gave you
An opposing thumb.
that you could have fingertip to fingertip, so you could use it. So that's what you had when you were 5.
Right.
And then after that, we went back every year to check to make sure this was staying in place, staying the way it was supposed to be, so you would have fingertip to fingertip, and it would be useful. Otherwise, it would not be.
Right. People don't even know I have a deformity in my hand. I mean, unless they actually look. So what kind of kid was I?
Even when you were little and growing up, you were very artistic. I think you got your artistic sense from me.
Probably. Because you're a crafter.
Yes, I was.
Crafter.
I always tell everybody that, oh, Tony got his artistic sense from me. I was always interested in art and artistic things, and I'm a big history nut also.
We used to go to Chicago together as well when I was older,
Yes.
and we would walk around and we do walking tours of the city.
Yeah.
This is after I moved to California, so that's the one thing we share is this kind of interest in history and architecture and art and
Exactly.
Yeah.
We share a lot of interests.
Mom, dime tu nombre.
My name is Cecilia Hernandez. Very, very old.
She will be celebrating 91 years old. When you got to America, what did you do? ¿Qué hicieron?
Your father working en los techos y
Roofing.
la roofing. After that, take money and put the bakery in Los Angeles. After that, put a restaurant in Whittier.
What kind of a child was I?
What kind of child?
¿Cómo fui de niño?
Very good, very nice, very nice. But when finished the high school, tremendo.
Okay. When I finished the high school, I was tremendous. All right.
Go.
That's the gay part. What's your favorite song? ¿Cuál es tu canción favorita?
Solamente una vez amé en la vida. Solamente una vez y nada más. Una vez nada más en mi huerto brilló la esperanza que alumbre el camino de mi soledad. Una vez nada más se entrega el alma con la dulce y total renunciación. Y cuando ese milagro realiza el prodigio de amarse, hay campanas de fiesta que cantan en el corazón. Y ese fuiste tú, José Luis Hernández.
Yes.
Here's our food. So we spent the day walking around campus, kind of reliving some of my influences here, including going to architecture camp, which kind of helped get me interested in architecture. And we visited the Basilica because it's beautiful, and just kind of immersing ourselves in kind of the architecture of the university and kind of the experience of growing up here and having the university here. And then we went downtown, right? We went and visited the river, and we went to see the Vesuvio sculpture. So I don't know if you remember when they put the sculpture in, it was really controversial. And a lot of people were like, why did the city spend so much money on the sculpture? But, you know, and that had a huge influence on me personally because I didn't know anything about art, but kind of also piqued my interest in, going into art school and kind of art. Michael grew up in LA. I grew up here in the Midwest. He's an Angelino by birth. I'm an Angelino by moving there.
LA gets put down a lot because they say there's no culture. There's a lot of culture in LA, which I've never noticed before.
I wonder too if because you grew up there, it was just natural. Like that's what you're used to. Where Tony, when he moved there, that was kind of a different culture. So to him, he probably took it in more and appreciated it because it was so different than what he was used to.
Very true.
Where you were like, well, this is just my home and this is natural and isn't everywhere like this?
No, that's 100% true. People think they know their city. They just know how to get around the city. They don't know the city.
Well, yeah, they don't see the buildings, but I was just thinking while you're talking that you're trying to bring awareness to things before they're lost.
Right.
Well, like we're here, South Bend's built on Studebaker.
Yeah.
It's also built on Balmain, who used to make the tennis shoes. When you go to those locations, those buildings are gone, and you're starting to see Studebaker disappear building by building now, and there's just very little left of what built this town. So, it's nice to see that someone's trying to bring awareness to what's in that town before it gets lost again.
You remember when I went to the hospital in Chicago?
Yeah.
How did you get me into the hospital?
I was a guy that worked in the same plant I did. He was a Shriner. And so I questioned him about the hospital. And he brought my name up at a meeting, and we were accepted to the hospital.
When I was a little kid, I was going to the big city, and I got to see big buildings and busy streets and stuff that we don't have here in town. It got me interested in cities and architecture and art at a very early age. It was probably a blessing to have had that experience, because it influenced me to want to follow by the path I'm in now.
I'm Martha Guadalupe. I'm actually Michael's twin sister. He's my mom's favorite. He's also very giving, so he takes a lot of time to give of himself and helps my mom. A lot of what he does is help the family.
He gives really good advice, someone I can vent with when I'm upset about things that go on. We used to love to watch scary movies with Uncle Michael, and he used to always hide and scare us when we were kids, and it was fun times with him.
When my mother had Michael and Lupe, the twins, I was 16 years old, and I used to be in charge of watching over them. After church, I would have to go to work to the bakery, but I would take the twins with me. I would just take them everywhere with me. Michael especially has always been a very close brother with me, and he was my shoulder to cry on for many years.
I started my adult career in working in nonprofit. I was a little reluctant working for the company that I'm with today, which is Redline Tours, at the beginning, only because I saw myself as serving people, but what I didn't realize is that I would continue to serve people, but in a totally different way than what I was doing before.
My staff and I have helped transform how visitors to Los Angeles see the city. My hope is, as a lifelong goal, is to continue that path and to really curate, all these great stories that really make LA what it is as a city, and really kind of deliver those to the people that come to Los Angeles as my legacy and as my business's legacy.